Yo, BigTimes family. Welcome back to another exciting episode where we unpack the wildest stories making headlines in Kenya and beyond. And today, buckle up, because this one feels like a Netflix series waiting to happen. So, let's set the stage. It's July 2025, Nairobi. A big betting firm is just running business as usual. Money flowing in, people placing bets, jackpots being promised. But then, something weird happens. One morning, the accountants check the system and find out that 11.4 million shillings, poof, has disappeared. Like magic, vanished into thin air. No alerts, no suspicious transactions flagged. Nothing. Just gone. Now pause right there and imagine this. You open your M-Pesa and find someone has cleared your account overnight. You know that heart attack you get when Safaricom sends you a random, "Congratulations, you've subscribed SMS for a service you don't even know." Yeah, multiply that by 11 million. The betting company freaked out. Of course, this wasn't something they could hide. They had to call in the big boys, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, specifically the Banking Fraud Unit. These guys, they come in with their laptops, their digital trackers, and their coffee, because trust me, chasing hackers is not a one-hour job. So the detectives start combing through the logs. And let me tell you, cybercrime is tricky. It is not like chasing a thief in a Matatu who drops his phone and wallet as evidence. This is about following tiny digital footprints, IP addresses, logins, timestamps, weird payment redirects. But slowly, the puzzle starts making sense. And one name pops up, Seth Mwabe. Now, who is this guy? Picture this. Seth is only 26 years old, a Maru University dropout, second-year IT student who just decided, school's not for me. And I know what you're rethinking. Most of us drop out and maybe start a small business, maybe hustle in the streets, maybe try something in farming. But Seth? No. Seth decided he was going to be a cybersecurity engineer, self-taught. From 2017, he branded himself as an independent consultant. Basically, the guy was hustling in cyberspace. And honestly, this is where the story gets wild. Because if you read his CV without the DCI drama, you'd probably be impressed. He knew his stuff. He had the skills. But instead of using them to, say, protect systems, he allegedly used them to bypass a payment provider linked to the betting firm. And boom, money moved. By late August, the DCI had him on their radar. And on the night of August 30th, 2025, the Banking Fraud Unit surrounded his apartment in Tatu City, Kiambu County. Now imagine the scene. Two-bedroom apartment, pretty quiet neighborhood, but inside, Seth has a full-on hacker lab. Laptops, high-speed internet, gadgets everywhere. And here's the kicker. He had a money-counting machine. A whole safe. Honestly, this guy wasn't just living like a tech bro. He was living like a movie villain. So DCI knocks. Seth tries to explain, No, guys. I'm a consultant. All this equipment is legit. This is my lab. I work for companies, you know. Independent contracts, cybersecurity stuff. But come on. A money-counting machine for consultancy? I mean, unless he's counting passwords, that excuse wasn't flying. The detectives forced their way in, collected the evidence, and arrested him on the spot. He was taken to Capitol Hill Police Station, where he spent the weekend. And on Monday, September 1st, he was scheduled to face arraignment. Of course, his defense was that everything he was doing was legal. But for DCI, the case was straightforward. This was the guy behind the missing millions. Now, let's pause here and talk about reactions. Because when Kenyans heard this story, Twitter went crazy. You know, Kenyans online can turn anything into a meme. Some people were like, "This guy is a genius." Imagine outsmarting a betting company that profits from our suffering. He deserves a medal. Others were like, "Nope, crime is crime. Doesn't matter who the victim is." And then, of course, there were those who said, if he was smart enough to pull this off, why couldn't the government just hire him instead of jailing him? And honestly, that's the interesting part. The line between being a cybersecurity genius and being a hacker is very thin. If you're hacking to test vulnerabilities and protect systems, you're a hero. If you hack to steal money, you're a criminal. Same skill set, totally different outcomes. But this also raises bigger questions, especially for young Kenyans. We've got so much raw talent in tech. People teaching themselves coding cybersecurity on YouTube because maybe school isn't accessible or the opportunities are limited. And sometimes that talent gets wasted because the system doesn't know how to absorb them. Seth could have been building apps, protecting banks, working with global tech firms. Instead, he's behind bars. Genius wasted. Or maybe genius misdirected. Now, let me get a bit spicy here. Betting firms in Kenya? Come on, we know their reputation. They make billions off people, especially the youth, who are just hoping for a miracle jackpot. So when news broke that a betting firm got hacked, many Kenyans secretly felt like karma was at work. Like finally, the hunter becomes the hunted. I mean, don't get me wrong, stealing is wrong, but you can see why some people weren't shedding tears for the company. But if we flip the coin, imagine what happens if hackers like Seth keep winning. Today, it's a betting firm. Tomorrow, it's your bank, your SACCO, or even government systems. That's why the DCI had to act fast. Because if one young man could pull this off, what about a whole network of hackers working together? Scary stuff. So now the big question is, what next for Seth Mwabe? Will the court find him guilty and lock him up for years? Will he somehow convince them that he was just an innocent consultant misunderstood by the system? Or will someone out there see his potential and offer him a second chance? We'll have to wait and see. But either way, this case is a lesson. 1. Cybercrime is real. And it is not just happening in Hollywood movies. It is happening right here in Kenya. 2. Our young people have crazy talent that needs the right direction. Three, if you're out there trying to get rich quick by outsmarting the system, just remember, the system has people whose full-time job is hunting you down. So BigTimes fam, I want to hear from you. Was Seth a wasted genius who should have been hired instead of arrested? Or was he just greedy and deserved to be caught? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button, because the stories we're bringing you are only getting crazier. All right, that's it for today's episode. Stay smart, stay safe, and remember, not all shortcuts lead to success. Sometimes they just lead straight to jail.